Okay, let's unpack this. Get ready because we are plunging headfirst into a story of truly epic, utterly hilarious, well-intentioned failure. This isn't just a mishap, it's like a masterpiece of magnificent, jaw-dropping blundering. Really something else.
And we're doing it by diving deep into the stack of articles, notes, and research you've provided us on this very specific topic. It's always fascinating to see what captures your eye, and this one.
Well, it's special. It's comedy gold, rooted in sincere, if maybe misguided effort.
Oh, it absolutely is. We are talking about the infamous Ecce Homo Fresco restoration disaster. But let's frame it correctly right from the start. While it was, undeniably a disaster for professional art conservation, it stands as a truly magnificent side-splitting moment in the history of human trying really, really hard and, well, achieving something else entirely. Absolutely. The core players here, they almost read like characters in a folk tale, really, brought to life through the material you shared. We have the small, quiet town of Borja in Spain, their Sanctuary of Mercy Church, a 19th century fresco residing within titled Ecce Homo, depicting Jesus Christ, and crucially, an 81-year-old parishioner named Cecilia Jimenez.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive, pulling from these diverse sources, is to unpack not just what happened, but how a sincere desire to help, maybe even a feeling of genuine devotion, somehow resulted in this universally recognized icon of hilarious incompetence. And the consequences, well, they were pretty unexpected for everyone involved.
And you'll definitely want to stick around because the insights from these sources show that this story has layers of honestly delicious irony. What started as a local problem, crumbling painting in a small church, became a global internet phenomenon and incredibly transformed into a tourist attraction. It's a masterclass in unintended consequences.
Okay, let's really unpack this. So, based on the material you sent, we start in Borja, Spain. A lovely, peaceful town, seemingly unremarkable on the world stage, right?
Mm-hmm. Pretty quiet place.
They have this local treasure, the Sanctuary of Mercy Church, and inside, hanging on a pillar, is this fresco from the 19th century, Ecce Homo.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't a Caravaggio, wasn't even particularly famous outside the region, but it was a cherished piece of local heritage depicting Christ with the crown of thorns.
Right. And your sources point out that this fresco, being quite old and well, probably quite humid environment, was suffering from the inevitable effects of time. Flaking paint, damp spots, just generally deteriorating. It needed care, sure, but perhaps wasn't getting that urgent professional attention.
Enter Cecilia Jimenez. The material describes her as a longtime parishioner in her early 80s at the time and an amateur artist. According to one article you included, she felt this deep personal devotion to the fresco and was reportedly quite distressed by its visible decay. She saw a problem and with the very, very best intentions decided she had the skills to fix it.
And this is precisely where the story pivots from a quiet local issue to global, spectacular absurdity. It's kind of amazing. Multiple sources highlight that she undertook this task without consulting any professional art restorers or church officials or really anyone with formal conservation training. She simply decided to do it herself.
Armed with a brush and what one source describes as, get this, garden variety paints, she began her restoration. Now, your sources are pretty clear. Even the initial attempt was problematic. Her skill level, while perhaps okay for painting landscapes as a hobby, was just nowhere near what was needed for delicate fresco repair. She started painting over the original work, covering areas of the face and robe.
Yes, and this is where the magnificent transformation begins. The descriptions across the sources are consistent and, frankly, hysterically funny. You almost can't believe it. Instead of preserving or improving the image of Christ, she began to grotesquely distort it. The more she worked, the less it resembled the original, like dramatically less.
It's almost painful to read the descriptions if it weren't so unbelievably funny. The originally serene, somber face of Christ, painted by Elias Garcia Martinez, started to just morph. Sources talk about how the eyes became smeared and uneven, the mouth a crude squiggle. The entire face transformed into something utterly alien to the original. One article you sent didn't pull any punches, describing it as evolving into a bizarre, monkey-like visage. A shocking lack of resemblance.
Yeah, monkey-like is putting it mildly sometimes, based on the pictures. It wasn't a subtle misstep. It was a complete, undeniable, and highly visible transformation into something unintended and, let's be honest, profoundly goofy looking.
And then came the moment it was revealed to the wider world. Local authorities, art historians, their reaction was, well, predictably one of horror and dismay.
Understandably so.
But the true explosion, the part that cemented this in internet history, began when a photograph of this newly restored fresco was posted online.
And boom. It went viral with the speed of
Yeah.
light, just absolutely everywhere.
Can you even imagine a cherished local religious image painstakingly transformed by an elderly parishioner into something that immediately struck the internet as looking like, and I'm pulling descriptions from your sources here, a bad caricature drawn by a child, a potato with eyes and a mouth, or simply monkey Christ.
Monkey Christ, that was the one
Yeah.
that really stuck, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah.
And this image sparked an absolute torrent of internet memes, Photoshop parodies, global, unrestrained ridicule, became the poster child for art restoration, gone spectacularly, ridiculously, unbelievably wrong.
The sheer volume of creative absurdity this disaster inspired is incredible. People photoshopped Monkey Christ into everything from the Mona Lisa to the Last Supper. It resonated because the gap between the sincere intention and the jaw-dropping outcome was just so vast
Mm.
and so public.
But here's the deepest layer of irony, the twist that makes this story endlessly fascinating, and which your sources highlight with a mix of, well, bewilderment and amusement. This objectively disastrous restoration didn't doom the church. It turned an obscure church in Borja into a global tourist destination. Seriously.
It's wild. The articles detail how, after the initial shock and outrage subsided, thousands of people started flocking to this small, previously quiet Spanish town just to see the infamous Monkey Christ with their own eyes. The church, after considering options, kind of embraced the situation, didn't they? Started charging an entry fee to see the fresco.
They did. And the merchandise, oh my goodness. The sources describe T-shirts, mugs, postcards, all featuring the restored image. What was an artistic failure became a bizarrely successful brand, a symbol of charming incompetence that people were willing to pay to see and, own a piece of.
And Cecilia Jimenez herself, the 81-year-old amateur restorer who just wanted to help, she became this unlikely, slightly bewildered international celebrity. From quiet parishioner with a paintbrush to global internet icon, meme fodder, and the star of a completely accidental tourist boom. It's incredible.
And crucially, as some sources note, in the grand scheme of things, this was a failure with basically zero serious consequences. No one was harmed, well, except maybe the original paint layers. No lives were ruined. The entire outcome, while a catastrophe for art purists, played out as pure, unadulterated, universally understandable comedy on a global stage. It's human vulnerability and good intentions laid bare for the world to chuckle at.
It truly is a monument to human ineptitude driven by the best of intentions. The butterfly effect of a single, wildly misguided artistic intervention. It's the perfect storm of sincerity, lack of skill, a public platform, and the internet's insatiable appetite for absurd viral content. Just everything came together perfectly, in a way.
And looking at the different sources you send, it's fascinating how they frame it, isn't it? Some focus on the artistic loss, naturally, others on the sociological phenomenon of internet virality, and still others on the unexpected economic impact on the town. It just shows how one bizarre event can be viewed through so many different lenses, all contributing to the whole picture.
So let's just quickly recap our journey through the material you provided. We started with a local painting quietly needing a touch-up in a small Spanish church. Through a series of sincere, but let's face it, hilariously misguided steps, it was transformed into a global meme, an unlikely tourist attraction, and a symbol of unintentional artistic disaster turned somehow into a cultural phenomenon.
The core lesson, really, drawn from these different perspectives in your sources, is the sheer spectacular nature of human folly when combined with the best of intentions, especially in the age of instant global communication. It resulted in a form of comedy so potent it transcended language and culture. Everyone kind of got the joke,
And the aftermath is just dripping with irony. What was initially seen as a devastating blow to local heritage by art conservation professionals turned into an economic lifeline for the town of Borja. And this unexpected, albeit strange, fame for the restorer. It's a narrative flip that almost feels too perfect to be real, doesn't it?
It absolutely makes you think about the internet age. How quickly something obscure can just explode globally, the power of completely unintended consequences, and our collective, often incredibly funny, reaction to shared absurdity in public oops moments. We love that stuff.
This whole story, looking at it through the material you curated for us, it leaves you with a genuinely fascinating question to consider, doesn't it? What does it mean in our modern world when a perceived artistic failure, an undeniable derp, becomes infinitely more famous, brings more attention, and maybe generates more economic value than the original professionally created artwork ever did? Is there an unexpected form of value, cultural, comedic, even economic, that is uniquely created by such public, spectacular, and utterly hilarious acts of trying? Something to chew on.